The movie begins with a girl named Zadie. Zadie calls her friend Shelly and tells her that she has sent the video that Dorm recorded a few days ago. Shelly watches the video, which shows Shelly, Zadie, and their friend Dorm. We don't clearly see what happened in the video, but we can hear screaming. Shelly talks to Zadie and says, "Why did you send me this video? Now Rock won't leave us alone after what you did." However, Zadie reassures her saying, "Rock isn't invincible and we'll all escape. Me, you, and Dorm." Then she tells Shelly that she has just entered her house and plans to hide, urging them to flee immediately. Indeed, Zadie enters her home, only to be surprised by Marion waiting there with one of her men. Marion, for context, is Rock's assistant, the person Zadie and Shelly were discussing. At that moment, Shelly is still on the call and hears everything, realizing that they've captured Zadie and plan to take her out. Quickly, Shelly hides the phone containing the video Zadie sent and leaves her house to escape. As she runs away, she notices one of Rock's men following her, so she starts running faster to evade him. During her escape, she encounters a police officer and accidentally drops her bag. Unfortunately, the bag contains drugs, which leads the officers to arrest her. The good news, though, is that the man following her fails to catch or harm her. On the other side, we are introduced to a character named Rock. Rock is sitting at a party, and we learn that he is a very famous musician with a significant reputation at the moment. A person approaches him with a girl who has come all the way from Vienna specifically to learn music from Rock. Rock greets the girl and is pleased with her, but their conversation is cut short when Marion arrives. Marion informs Rock that they have captured Zadie and that she is being held in the warehouse attached to the theater or the location they are in. Without wasting time, Rock heads to Zadie. When he reaches her, he says, "During the centuries I've lived here, I've killed many innocent people who didn't deserve it." He adds, "I don't want to kill you, as long as you tell me where Shelly and Dorm are." But Zadie is unable to tell him anything. At that moment, Rock leans close to Zadie's ear and begins whispering strange, unintelligible words. Then something extremely bizarre happens. Zadie's appearance changes, becoming terrifying. Marion then brings a knife, and Zadie takes the knife and stabs herself, collapsing dead. Afterward, Rock cuts himself and drinks Zadie's blood, feeling an inexplicable sense of rejuvenation. At this point, we realize that Rock is not human like the rest of us, but a strange entity. After killing Zadie, Rock now wants to kill Shelly and Dorm because they have a video that exposes him. It's clear that this video reveals something about his true nature, but we still don't know exactly what. Meanwhile, at the same time, Shelly enters a rehabilitation center for drug addiction treatment. At the center, she meets a young man named Eric, who is also undergoing treatment. From the first glance, Eric falls in love with Shelly, and they quickly develop mutual feelings, even though relationships are strictly prohibited in the rehab facility. Nevertheless, Shelly spends most of her time with Eric. One day, Shelly discovers that Marion, Rock's men, and a dark-haired woman, who we later learn is Shelly's mother, have come to the rehab center to take Shelly. Shelly tells Eric that she doesn't want to go with them because they will kill her, and she asks him to help her escape. Eric agrees and takes her to the laundry room in the center, from which they manage to escape easily and leave the facility entirely. Afterward, Shelly and Eric went to a remote location to calm down and decided to stay there for a while. They were in a state of relaxation when the scene suddenly shifts to the sea, where the police discover Zadie's body. There was an undercover officer working with Rock and his crew, and he called Marion to inform her that Zadie's body had been found. Immediately, Marion called Rock and told him what happened, which made him furious. He ordered her to handle the situation quickly and get rid of Shelly and Dorm to eliminate the threat against him. Marion apologized for the discovery of Zadie's body and hung up the call. That night, Shelly and Eric were sitting together, and Eric was playing the piano. He asked Shelly to play for him since she had mentioned that she knew how to play. Shelly started playing, but as she did, she began to remember her friend Zadie, Rock, and the many events she had been through. Feeling overwhelmed, she stopped playing and asked Eric to go outside, and he agreed. While outside, Eric seized the moment and asked Shelly about what was really happening. Shelly explained that her mother had forced her to join a strange group in the past, and she had seen things she wasn't supposed to. Now the group was trying to kill her to prevent her from exposing them. She also revealed that the group had killed her friend Zadie for the same reason. Eric was shocked by her story, but he reassured Shelly that he would help her escape and that no one would be able to find them. They would live happily together. Later, Shelly and Eric went to a bar to spend some time. Suddenly, Dorm, Shelly, and Zadie's friend appeared and approached Shelly to tell her that Rock and his group had killed Zadie. He warned her to escape quickly because they would try to kill her too, and then he disappeared as suddenly as he had appeared. Shelly panicked, grabbed Eric, and they left the bar in a hurry, heading to Eric's home to hide. Unfortunately, when they arrived at the house, they found Rock's men waiting for them. They began suffocating Shelly and Eric with plastic bags, attempting to kill them. Strangely, Eric didn't die. Suddenly, he found himself submerged in water. Seeing Shelly in front of him, he tried to save her but failed. Afterward, Eric emerged from the water to find himself in a strange place filled with crows. Eric kept wondering how he had arrived there and what this place was, but he found no answers. He wandered around until he encountered a mysterious figure. Let's call him the Stranger. Eric asked the Stranger about the place and what was happening. The Stranger explained to Eric that the crows were responsible for transporting human souls from the real world to the afterlife when they die. But the Stranger also told him that his soul was filled with sorrow and love for Shelly, and for that reason, the crows decided to bring him back to life instead of taking him to the afterlife. He needed to kill the person who killed him. The Stranger told Eric that Rock was not a normal person. He had made a pact with the devil centuries ago, allowing him to live without dying. But in return, he had to kill innocent souls to prolong his miserable life. The Stranger said that when Eric returned to life, he would need to eliminate Rock and his entire group. Only then would he be able to reunite with Shelly. Eric couldn't believe everything he was hearing, but he left the Stranger thinking that this was all just a nightmare he would soon wake up from. Suddenly, the Stranger appeared again and said, "You want to wake up? Simple." He then pushed Eric back into the water, and suddenly, Eric was transported back to the real world, finding himself in the house where he had been killed. One of Rock's men arrives at the house, sent to retrieve Shelly's phone containing the incriminating video of Rock, as previously mentioned. The officer is shocked to find Eric alive in the house. He shoots Eric, but Eric doesn't die. His wounds heal within seconds. Eric engages the officer in a brutal fight and ultimately overpowers and kills him. Afterward, Eric leaves the house, terrified and unsure of where to go. As he reaches a bridge, he hallucinates, seeing Shelly standing on the edge before throwing herself into the water. Eric jumps after her in an attempt to save her, but instead, he is transported once again to the other world. There, Eric meets the Stranger again and asks him how he heals so quickly. The Stranger explains that this is a power granted to him by the crows, and he tells Eric that he must use this ability wisely and eliminate Rock and his entire group as soon as possible. Eric agrees and is returned to the real world once more. Upon returning, the first thing Eric does is visit a friend to obtain a weapon for his mission. Unsure of where to begin, he decides to go to Shelly's memorial service at the church. He waits in his car until Shelly's mother gets in her car. Eric then forces her to drive him to her house. There he tells her everything about Rock and his gang, assuring her that he will soon take them down and bring Shelly back to life. Naturally, Shelly's mother doesn't believe him, thinking Eric is crazy and refuses to reveal anything. Realizing he won't get any information from her, Eric leaves. Shortly after his departure, Rock arrives to speak with Shelly's mother. From their conversation, we learn that Shelly's mother had handed her over to Rock in exchange for a miserable, near-immortal life. Rock asks her about Eric and what he wanted from her. She tells him that Eric claimed he would destroy Rock and his entire gang and bring Shelly back to life. At that moment, Rock is terrified by what he hears, realizing that Eric has been sent from the other world specifically to kill him. Immediately, Rock calls Marion, instructing her to capture Eric alive. After hanging up, Rock whispers strange, unintelligible words into Shelly's mother's ear before leaving. Shortly afterward, Shelly's mother throws herself off the balcony, dying instantly. Rock departs, having used his mysterious power, which appears to be linked to these cryptic whispers. Meanwhile, Eric goes to Shelly's house, searching for anything that might help him. He finds pictures of Shelly, her friend Zadie, and their friend Dorm, as well as an access card that Shelly used to enter Rock's private theater. Eric decides to head there. Upon arriving at the theater, he spots one of Rock's men sitting in a car outside. This man is, in fact, the one who had killed Eric before he was brought back to life. Eric stops the man and begins interrogating him, demanding all the information he has about Rock. However, the man says nothing and tries to pull out his gun to kill Eric again, but Eric is faster and shoots him, killing him. At this point, Eric sees Marion and some of her men exiting the theater. He stands in front of their car and begins shooting at them wildly, but his bullets don't kill any of them. Marion's car hits Eric, but he is once again unharmed. Eric enters the car, attacking everyone inside and attempting to kill Marion, but he fails. One of Marion's men throws Eric out of the car, and another car driving down the road runs over him. But as expected, Eric remains unhurt. After what happened, Eric went to Dorm, Zadie, and Shelly's friend, and asked him why Rock was trying to kill them all. Dorm told him that the video on Shelly's phone contained everything Eric needed to know. Eric advised Dorm to flee the city to avoid the same fate, then left. Shortly after, Eric arrived at Shelly's house and began searching for her phone. After some time, he finally found it. When Eric opened the phone, he watched the video showing Dorm, Zadie, Shelly, Rock, and other individuals. In the video, Rock is seen teaching everyone how to play the piano. But at one point, Rock whispers into Shelly's ear, taking control of her and making her kill one of the girls present. Rock was using Shelly to commit the murder as part of the pact he made with the devil to continue his life. Dorm had accidentally recorded the video, but it served as undeniable proof of Rock's true nature. That's why Rock was determined to eliminate anyone who had access to the video. Eric was utterly shocked by what he saw. He took the phone and went to his friend, the one who had given him the gun earlier, and explained everything to him in deep sorrow. While Eric was with his friend, several of Rock's men arrived and attacked the place. They overpowered Eric and killed his friend, which sent Eric into a rage. He fought back with fury, but one of Rock's men shot him in the stomach, killing him. Eric was transported back to the other world. In the other world, Eric met the stranger once again. The stranger told him that he hadn't been fully healed because he hadn't completed the task the crows had given him. Instead, he had been chasing Shelly's past, which was a mistake. The stranger also revealed that Shelly had a dark past and her rightful place was in hell. At that moment, Eric rejected everything the stranger said. He asked the stranger to trade his soul for Shelly's so she could return to life while he would die in her place. The stranger agreed to the deal, and suddenly a crow entered Eric's body. The stranger cut himself and mixed his blood with Eric's, which turned black. The stranger then told him that he now had the attributes of the crows, allowing him to move freely between worlds. Eric also gained much greater strength than before, and he was told to complete his mission as soon as possible. Eric returned to the real world, finding himself in his friend's house. He stood up and attacked the man who had killed him, swiftly eliminating him. He then killed the remaining members of Rock's men with ease and precision. Eric took one of the phones from Rock's men and found out through their messages that Marion would be attending a party that night at Rock's theater. Sure enough, Marion and her assistant arrived at the party not long after. Shortly afterward, Eric also arrived at the event. Upon entering, he saw Rock's men stationed everywhere and immediately began killing them with brutal and bloody force. He took them down one by one, unaffected by the bullets they fired at him. Eric continued to slaughter them mercilessly, unstoppable and unscathed. After Eric had killed everyone, Marion's assistant arrived and began shooting at Eric. But as usual, Eric did not die. The assistant, realizing he couldn't defeat Eric, attempted to take his own life by placing the gun to his head. However, Eric stopped him by cutting off his hand, preventing the suicide. Then Eric killed him himself, took his head and brought it to Marion. When Marion saw the gruesome sight, she was filled with terror. Eric asked her where Rock was, and she reluctantly told him the location of Rock's house. Without hesitation, Eric killed Marion as well. Eric then headed straight to Rock's home. Upon confronting Rock, the villain asked, "Who are you?" Eric responded by saying he was simply a man who made a deal with the devil. Rock tried to defend himself by claiming that he was better than Eric because at least he had retained his humanity, whereas Eric had become nothing more than a wandering spirit, killing everyone in his path. During their conversation, Rock attempted to kill Eric with a knife, but Eric was unaffected. Rock then resorted to using his strange ability, whispering into Eric's ear in an effort to control him. At that moment, Eric began seeing disjointed visions of Shelly, crows, and other strange images, but he managed to regain his composure and wasn't affected by Rock's powers. Rock then asked, "Why are you doing all this? Shelly will never come back to life." He added that Shelly's soul was corrupted, which is why he was able to control her and make her kill so many people, and that no matter what Eric did, Shelly would remain in hell. Enraged by Rock's words, Eric began beating him violently, then grabbed Rock and leaped with him out of the window, taking them both to the other world. In the other world, Eric continued his brutal assault on Rock, eventually throwing him into a strange, eerie lake. Out of the lake emerged hellish creatures, beings from the very depths of hell itself, who dragged Rock down into the underworld to spend eternity where he truly belonged. As soon as Rock disappeared, Shelly emerged from the lake, returning once again. Eric told Shelly that he could bring her back to life, but sadly, he would not be able to stay with her because he had sold his soul to the crows. He would remain in the other world to carry out his missions. In return, Shelly would be allowed to live her normal life again, but Eric asked her to never forget him, assuring her that they would meet again in another world. Shelly returned to life, finding herself in the same house where both she and Eric had initially died. She was surrounded by officers and paramedics who were attempting to revive her with electric shocks. They eventually succeeded in bringing her back to life. Shelly continued with her life, but she could never forget Eric and everything he had done for her. As for Eric, he remained in the other world with the crows, continuing his missions, ridding the world of more corrupt souls like Rock.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.